The NFL has seen fast defenders. It's seen smart defenders. It's even seen strong defenders. But it has almost never seen all three wrapped into one human being, the way it saw with Reggie White. Because Reggie White wasn't just a great pass rusher. He was a force that bent offenses out of shape before the ball was even snapped. And the craziest part? He came from absolutely nowhere. So how did a small-town kid from Tennessee become one of the most dominant defensive players the NFL has ever known? And how good was Reggie White actually? Reggie White didn't grow up surrounded by football factories or national attention. He grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, far from the spotlight that usually produces NFL legends. There were no viral highlights, no recruiting circus, no early coronation. What White had, instead, was structure, discipline, and a deep sense of purpose that shaped how he approached everything, including football. Even early on, people noticed something different, not just his size, but how he used it. White didn't play wild. He played controlled, and that balance between power and discipline would define his entire career. College snapshot. When the warning signs appeared. At the University of Tennessee, Reggie White didn't slowly develop. He arrived dangerous. Offensive linemen quickly realized this wasn't a normal matchup. White wasn't just stronger. He was relentless. Snap after snap, drive after drive, quarter after quarter. He didn't fade. He didn't slow down. By the time White finished his college career, the question around him wasn't upside. It was scale. How dominant could this guy actually be against NFL players? Pro football arrival, no learning curve. Reggie White's transition to professional football was immediate. There was no adjustment phase where he learned the speed of the game. He was already faster than most linemen and stronger than almost all of them. From the moment he stepped onto an NFL field, protection shifted. Double teams followed him. Game plans were written with his name circled in red. And when he became a cornerstone of the Philadelphia Eagles, everything escalated. Because now, Reggie White wasn't just a great defender. He was the problem offenses had to solve every single week. Breakout years, when fear entered the league. In Philadelphia, White became the face of one of the most intimidating defensive units of his era. He didn't rely on blitzes. He didn't need misdirection. He lined up at defensive end and overwhelmed whoever stood in front of him. Tackles tried to anchor. Guards tried to help. Tight ends tried to chip. It didn't matter. During his prime years, White averaged close to a sack per game, despite constant double teams and max protect schemes designed specifically to slow him down. That kind of consistency wasn't normal. It was suffocating. Peak dominance, a career that defies normal curves. Reggie White's resume reads like something pulled from a video game. 198 career sacks, second most in NFL history. 13 Pro Bowl selections, 8 first-team All-Pro honors, 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards. But the most impressive part? He did it across eras, teams, and roles. White wasn't a one-system star. He wasn't a short-window peak. He was dominant for over a decade. How he won? Strength with purpose. White's signature weapon, the hump move, became legendary for a reason. He didn't just push linemen aside, he lifted them. White would get his hands inside, explode upward, and physically throw 300-pound offensive linemen off balance on his way to the quarterback. This wasn't a gimmick. It was leverage, hand placement, and raw power working together. Even Hall of Fame linemen admitted there was no real counter once White engaged. If he got his hands on you, the play was already over. Fawn and media impact. The minister of defense. Reggie White wasn't just respected. He was feared. Quarterbacks rushed throws. Offensive coordinators adjusted protections before kickoff. Entire game plans were built around avoiding his side of the field. His nickname, the Minister of Defense, wasn't branding. It was reality. White brought physical dominance and moral authority into the same space, becoming one of the most unique figures the league had ever seen. Mid-video CTA. Pause the action. If you're enjoying this deep dive into football greatness and want more long-form stories like this, hit subscribe right now. This channel breaks down legends beyond the highlights, so if you love understanding how good players really were, you're exactly where you should be. Now, let's talk about the moment people thought Reggie White was done. Second act, the Green Bay gamble. When Reggie White signed with the Green Bay Packers, many believed this was the decline phase of his career, older, slower, past his prime. Instead, it became one of the most important free agent signings in NFL history. White didn't just bring sacks to Green Bay, he brought legitimacy, leadership, and culture shift. White's presence changed the Packers overnight. Young defenders learned how to prepare, veterans fed off his intensity, and offenses quickly realized the same problem still existed. He wasn't a rotational veteran. He was still a nightmare. Super Bowl 31, a legacy sealed. In Super Bowl 31, Reggie White delivered one of the most dominant defensive performances the Super Bowl has ever seen. 3 sacks, relentless pressure, total control of the line of scrimmage. At 35 years old, he was the most impactful defender on the field. That game didn't just earn him a ring, it proved his dominance transcended age. ERA context, answering the doubters. Some critics argue older pass rushers benefited from weaker offenses. Reggie White destroys that argument. Era-adjusted sack rates and peer comparisons show White didn't just lead his era, he separated from it. He faced elite offensive linemen, he faced Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and he dominated them anyway. This wasn't timing, this was greatness. Late career, evolution over decline. As White aged, his game evolved. Less reliance on pure explosion, more emphasis on hand usage, leverage, and anticipation. While most stars faded into situational roles, White remained a focal point. That adaptability is why his career longevity matters so much. Historical placement, where he stands all time. When ranking the greatest defensive players in NFL history, Reggie White isn't in a tier. He's at the top of one. Few players combined his production, physical dominance, longevity, and postseason impact. Even fewer did it without needing schematic help. Final answer: how good was Reggie White actually? So how good was Reggie White actually? He was a small-town kid who became a structural problem for the NFL, a defensive end who forced offenses to change how they played football. A once-in-a-generation combination of power, discipline, and dominance. Reggie White wasn't just one of the greatest defensive ends ever. He was the standard. And decades later, the league is still searching for someone who can match what he brought to the game.